We're here on a review hearing. We're conducting this through Zoom. We are live streaming, and Ms. Taylor's making our record this morning. Okay, we'll have announcements.
On behalf of the state of Texas, Your Honor, we'll announce ready.
Kenner, on behalf of the mother, Rebecca Henderson, we're present ready.
Judge, appearing for Stacey Zavala on behalf of the child, we are ready. Thank you.
All right, thank y'all. Hey, hope everybody had a good holiday weekend. Ms. Grant, if you want to give us an update, that would be great.
So far, overall, things are going well. Nathaniel's doing good in placement. He's had a couple of hiccups, nothing major, things that he's been able to address in therapy. Services are complete. They are attending family therapy currently with Jennings. They've completed 4 sessions so far. That's going well. So parents are not quite ready for Nathaniel to come home. So we're just going to give him a little more time.
Okay. Placement's solid. We don't have any concerns about.
No, ma'am.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just checking the waiting room again. Just make sure your client, Ms. Ron, hadn't come in. She hasn't tried to log back in. So, Ms. Naranjo, anything to report today or any concerns?
We spoke with Ms. Henderson. She informed us that she's wanting to continue family therapy with Nathaniel and is looking at potentially getting an apartment sometime in July per their plan of having him reside separately from the rest of the children.
Okay. They feel like that's a realistic goal and possibility?
That's what they think, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, just convey to her that we were trying to get her in, and I'm sorry that she was having trouble. Okay. Then, Mr. Nowak.
Recommendation, Judge, or questions?
Just any questions, any concerns?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Recommendation then.
Recommendation, and of course, you know, Stacey works these cases hard. So if I seem smart, it's not me; it's from Stacey. We recommend that the child Nathaniel continue the current placement, and that we continue working towards reunification with Dad. And I understand that Dad goes by Jackson. Jackson is cooperative and working services. So the ultimate recommendation, Judges, is continue placement with the child and encourage Dad, Jackson, to continue work services.
Okay. Hang on. Let me back up because I thought we had an unknown father in this case. We had a developer.
Judge, if I may clarify, Miss Henderson goes by Jackson Henderson.
Right. So yeah, so she is the mom, not the dad, but
apparently Nathaniel refers to
Jackson. That's correct. He does, but I just want to, because of the correct designation of our parties, I just want the record to be clear that it is Rebecca Jackson Henderson who is the biological mother of the child. She identifies male, and the child identifies her as such. Is that correct?
That is, as far as my understanding from Stacey, Judge, that is correct.
And that is correct, Your Honor.
Yeah, and this is, I know, I apologize, but I just think it's confusing on the record. So, okay.
Judge, just for the record, and I hate to jump in here, but I'm aware of, and Mr. Graff may not be aware, the alleged father signed an affidavit of waiver of his interest, and we terminated those parental rights, if there were any, at a previous hearing.
Okay.
Saw that in the file, counsel.
All right, so we just need to correct it and show that, and I do have a note about that. Mr. Eldridge is representing him, so we really, at this point, I mean, it is just, we still do have an unknown father then pled. Correct?
That would be correct, Your Honor, because the gentleman that was alleged to be the father, he waived any interest. We did not do specific genetic testing on him.
Right. So we need to leave the unknown plate in. So, okay.
Right.
All right. All right. Appreciate y'all. All right, then I will continue the department as temporary managing conservator and continue Nathaniel's placement. Our next hearing is going to be the final in this case, and that's set for August 1st. Do we have any kind of time idea about this case? I mean, are we really thinking that, do we think reunification in July is a feasible goal?
I think it is. Think things are going well. I think they want to finish family therapy. And definitely we'd like to get him back here and reunify before school starts.
Okay. All right. Sounds good to me. All right, then we'll just be back on August 1st and kind of see how everything's been going and see what we need to do at that point in time. All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Judge. I'll just go ahead and mute myself and stop video for a few minutes.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Thank you, Judge.
Review hearing. We are conducting this through Zoom. We are live streaming, and Ms. Taylor is making our record. Okay, just as an announcement, Mr. Hammonds could not be present today. He had to be in another court. He has filed a report with the court giving his recommendation for today.
And
okay.
Judge, is Heidi Combs in the waiting room? I don't see
it.
Okay, that's my worker. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, let me get her in.
Daniel Trial for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Heidi Combs is my primacy specialist. We're present ready.
Jerry Morales for respondent father, Tyrell Hughes, Your Honor. He is present. We're ready.
Bailey Sapien for respondent mom, Miss Brown. My client is present and we're ready.
Okay. And as I said, Mr. Hammonds had filed a report. Okay, then. First things, let's go ahead and get an update from Ms. Combs. Is there anything new or different from the court report?
King is doing very well in his placement. He's got a great bond with his biological siblings, meeting all of his milestones. He's very happy. The parents have reported they've had employment since February, but they have not provided any employment verification. And they've missed several drug screens that were scheduled.
Have they completed any other services?
No, ma'am. They have set up for individual counseling, and they didn't show up to that first appointment and didn't call. They rescheduled again, a no-show, and they rescheduled a third time, a no-show. They both scheduled a rational behavior therapy on March 7th. They showed up, but left after a couple of hours, stating they had to go to work. Tyrell completed orientation through Fatherhood Fire for parenting, but he did not show up for his class on May 15th. And he called me on May 6th, telling me about his and Taishika's decision to relinquish their rights to King.
And have there been anything followed through on that?
No. Judge, not yet. That's what I spoke with Ms. Sapien and Mr. Morales about a while ago, and I think they spoke to their clients about it. So I'm going to have some sent over to Mr. Morales and Ms. Sapien.
All right. Okay. Anything further from St. Francis or the department then?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. Nothing further this time.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, Ms. Sapien.
Thank you, Judge. I am making plans to meet with Ms. Brown, hopefully this week, to go over the option to relinquish. I believe that is her intention, but we want to make sure that's really what she wants. And I believe that will happen this week.
All right. I appreciate it, Ms. Sapien. Thank you. All right, Mr. Morales.
That'd be the same announcement for Mr. Hughes, Your Honor. We all spoke together. We are going to try to arrange to execute the relinquishment in my office sometime this week and go over it in a little bit more detail once we have it in paper and I have Mr. Hughes in front of me.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. And Mr. Hammond indicated actually what Ms. Combs has reported to us, that King is doing very well in his placement. He recommends that placement continue. So for today, then I will continue the department as temporary managing conservator of the child, and I will continue his placement. And we are set for a final on August 1st of 2024. Should parents decide to follow through with relinquishment, obviously we can get a date and get that done much sooner than that. So everybody just keep Ms. Katie and me posted about that, and we'll get something set up if that's the direction we're going. So, okay, if I don't see everybody before that, then I'll see you August 1st on a 9 o'clock docket.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much. Permanency hearing, and we are conducting this through Zoom. We're live streaming, and Ms. Taylor is making our record. Okay, we'll go ahead and take everybody's announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Jennifer Campos is my permanency specialist. We're present ready.
Joel Jackson on behalf of the mother, Chelsea Jeffrey. I'm present. My client is not here.
Vince Nowak for Mario Marino. I am present, Judge, and I have not had contact with my client in many, many months. Thank you.
Brooks Barfield, Attorney Ed Lott. I'm present ready.
Janelle Garrett with CASA.
All right, thank y'all. All right, then let's go ahead and get an update from St. Francis. Anything new since the court report was filed?
I believe there's not really much new. We are trying to work on in-person sibling visits now that Kiara is down close to San Antonio. I have not had any luck. I've reached out to numerous people and they come back with I can't do it. So I reached out to our provider relations to see if maybe they could help me find somebody to supervise the sibling visits. Foster parent of Kiara and Anaya both agreed that they would try and do one in-person visit a month between the kids, but of course we would like those to be weekly. They are still getting to see each other virtually, and St. Francis is supervising those. But both of the girls are doing well. Anaya's doing amazing. She's walking, she's kind of talking a little bit. Kiara, she's also doing great. She's attached to this family as well. We do have an adoptive home, once we get there, in mind. They have had one virtual visit with them. We are going to start in-person visits probably soon with them as well, to kind of get them familiar with each other. And then hopefully once we have parental rights terminated and stuff like that, we can move forward with that. As far as I know that we had an ICWA situation, I've not heard anything back from maternal grandmother. I've called, I have sent letters and everything, and there has not been a response. So I don't know if Daniel has had any response or anything, but I have not. And that's it. That's all.
Okay, and I was looking back. But paternal grandmother was a member, or we thought was a member of the Cherokee tribe, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And were we ever even able to verify that?
I have not. No.
Okay. All right, Mr. Trout, where are we on that?
Let me check, Your Honor, real quick.
Okay. And I know that came from parents. I mean, that paternal grandmother was a member, but we've not seen a card. We haven't anything like that.
I've not been in touch with parents in quite some time. And then I've tried to reach out to paternal grandmother, and I've not received anything back from her either. And it's been months.
Judge, we've gotten a couple of letters back. The last one was filed with the court on 4/19. stating that they had no registration for the children.
And I'm not pulling that up, but is that from the Cherokee tribe or is that from the Bureau of Indian Affairs?
We've heard from 2 of the Cherokee tribe.
Okay.
2 of the 4 we sent it to, we've gotten replies back that they're not.
All right, so you've got letters from 2 of the 4 that you've sent.
Yes, ma'am. It looks like one was filed on 3/14 and one was filed on 4/19 with the court. So the letter.
Okay. But both of those are stating they don't have anyone.
Correct.
They don't or registered or the children or anything like that.
Yes, ma'am.
Have we gotten anything back from the BIA?
No, ma'am. Just the Indian tribes on that one. Just the Cherokee tribes.
That you all sent out to the BIA as well, correct?
Let's see. Not sure that we sent out to them. We sent directly to the 4 Cherokee tribes since that's who the tribes we had names of.
All right, let's send to them.
Okay.
If we haven't, I'll let you look thoroughly. But if we have not, yeah, I think we need to send to them too. Okay. All right, Ms. Campos, anything else to report?
No, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you. Ms. Campos, I was reviewing my notes from the last hearing. I believe that was back in February. And I believe that you had testified back then that you hadn't seen Ms. Jeffries since August the 1st of 2024. Is that accurate?
Of 2023. Yes, sir.
Or 2023?
Yes, sir.
And in January, she was in the pavilion and she was released and went to live with her mom, correct?
Yes, sir. I did try and make contact with her mom, and her mom said that Chelsea never showed up to her house.
So after her release from the pavilion, everybody's lost track of Chelsea. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you tried any other efforts to locate her since then?
We just sent in for an accurate search to see if any other addresses or anything popped up, but we have not received it back yet.
Okay. On her intake that she did to apply for an attorney, she provided an email address. Are y'all reaching out to her at that email address?
I don't believe I have the email address.
Okay. Your Honor, I'll pass the witness.
Okay, Ms. Campos, you can pull that up and look at that from her statement of procedures, whether or not. Mr. Jackson, have you had any contact with her through that email? Do you know if it's still even a good email?
I don't know if it's a good email, Your Honor, but we did try to make her aware via the email address she provided of this hearing today.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, worth a try. Okay, Mr. Nowak.
Thank you so much, Judge. Jennifer, have you had any contact with Mario Marino since our last hearing?
No, sir.
Okay. Has he completed any services since the last hearing?
No, sir.
Have you tried to reach out to him?
Yes.
And just give me the last 4 digits of the phone number you're reaching out to him on.
Oh, I don't have it in front of me. Hold on just one second.
Is it 1998?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When you call that number, does a lady answer?
When I called the number, it went straight to voicemail. I didn't even get anybody to pick up. And I did leave a message asking for him to contact me, and I haven't heard anything.
Jennifer, thank you so much. Judge, that's all I have.
All right. And Mr. Barfield.
Your Honor, I just recommend, I have no witnesses, just recommendation.
That's fine. You can go ahead and give that.
And that would be placement remain. I think we need to go ahead and get this set as soon as possible for a final.
We are set July 30th. All right.
That's all I have.
Okay. And Carson?
Thank you, Your Honor. The girls are doing good in their placements, and you know, as was said, you know, the visits are going to be starting hopefully. Alexi did do a Seneca search and did find some family connections. She has reached out to them. Some of them had said yes, that they are interested. She gave them St. Francis contacts, but as far as she knows, nobody's reached out to them. I am going to be going next week and seeing the girls in person. So, but otherwise, everything seems to be going well. There's been no contact with the parents at all with CASA for quite some time.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Garrett. Okay, then. All right, then I'll continue the department as temporary managing conservator. I'm going to continue the children's placement, find there be a continuing danger to return the children home and that reasonable efforts have been made to reunify the family. And we are set for our final, July 30th of 2024 on a 9 o'clock docket. We're set for an adversary hearing today. We are conducting this through Zoom and we're live streaming. Ms. Taylor is making our record. All right, we're going to take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Present, ready, Your Honor.
Brooks Barfield for mom, Misty Schechter, present and ready, as is my client.
Vince Nowak on behalf of Jacob Craddock. I see his name on the screen, but his video is not on, but we are both present and ready, Judge.
Ken Arajo filling in for Stacy Zavala representing the child.
All right. And Ms. Naranjo, thank you for subbing in today. I appreciate your help. Okay. Mr. Trout?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor. I would call Misty Schechter. And Ms. Schechter, where do you live currently?
In California.
Okay.
Wildemar, California.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Wildemar, California.
Okay. Ms. Schechter, who do you live with?
I live with my boyfriend and his parents.
Okay. Are you currently working?
At the moment, no, I'm not. I'm a full-time student in college for nursing.
Okay. How long have you been a nursing student?
I just got enrolled on, I believe, the 7th of this month.
Okay. So have you started school yet, or are you going to be starting school?
I'm going to be starting here in a few weeks once everything's accepted.
Okay. How long have you resided in California?
Since March 4th of last year.
Okay. And before that, you resided where?
Shamrock, Texas.
Okay. Do you have custody of your children right now, or you have visitation rights? What is your?
I have visitation rights to Carter and Tyson. I'm supposed to have visitations, but his dad has been interfering with child custody for the last 4 years.
Okay. And when you said Tyson, is that your oldest child?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And do you have a third child?
Yes, his name is Jake. He's also in CPS custody right now.
Okay. In a different county, correct?
In Potter, no, Gray County, I believe.
Gray County. Okay. What are your visitation rights to Carter?
First, third, and fifth weekend of every month, and alternating holidays.
Okay. Now, did I see that you stated you had Carter in your care for about 6 months up until April?
Almost 6 months, yes.
Okay. If your visitation rights were set up that way, why did you have him for 6 months?
Jacob moved out here with me willingly. I picked up Jacob and Carter on November 1st in Blythe, California.
Okay.
And on November 13th, there was an incident that happened to the point where Jacob had to be removed from the home. And because Jacob was homeless, I kept Carter because here in California, if you do not protect your child, you can go to jail. It's called failure to protect.
Okay.
When that happened, Jacob was removed from the house. There was a restraining order placed on Jacob against him or for me, Carter, and my aunt that lived in the home. And that was up until April 5th, where Carter was taken off due to lack of jurisdiction for Carter.
What do you mean taken off?
He was taken off through restraining order because Carter wasn't here for 6 months to be a legal resident of California.
Okay. And Carter returned to Texas around April 12th or so?
I believe so.
Why was he returned then?
Because of the court order, the custody order out in Texas took jurisdiction here in California, and I was following court order.
Okay, so you voluntarily returned him?
Against my best judgment, correct, yes.
Okay. Have you had any CPS cases called in California?
There was one by the police officer that came and picked Jacob up because there was the court order from Texas. I guess it was mandatory. I have the record here from that incident where he stated that he had to call because of Jacob stating that he had custody of Carter and that I wouldn't give him back. So there was a open case on that, which Carter was left in my custody and the case was closed. Drug test was done. Everything came back normal. Everything was fine. And then I had a case open here for Carter, I want to say in February. So Carter could talk to CPS and make them aware of what was going on with Dad. And then I think there was another one that was called in for lack of income on November 21st.
May it please the court, and I apologize for interrupting, but a lot of this stuff is hearsay, Judge. I mean, when I'm hearing something was called in, somebody said that's just blatant hearsay.
Well, I agree the way it's been phrased, and let's just have Mr. Trout ask some different questions because she obviously does have some personal knowledge of this since she was a part of that investigation. So let's just shorten things up, Mr. Trout. I think if you'll just ask Ms. Schechter, he's going to ask you some very specific questions. Just answer just that. Let him come back to you with another question. Okay, yes. And that should solve our problem.
Misty, the first case was called in due to the incident that happened. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what is your knowledge of what was investigated on the second incident? Your personal knowledge, what were they looking into?
Jacob Craddock.
Okay. So they were looking into Dad?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the third incident, what specifically, your personal knowledge, were they investigating?
Jacob Craddock.
Okay. You said lack of income?
Yes, sir.
And what does lack of income mean? What do you mean?
That I didn't have the means to provide for my child due to not having a job.
Were all three of those cases closed out?
Yes, sir.
What were the findings on those three cases?
I can't remember the words that they used, but they left Carter with me and found that it was in his best interest to be with his mother.
No, you said you're not working right now. When was the last time you worked?
September 19th of last year was the last day that I had a job.
Okay. And what were you doing?
I was a host and food prep at an Italian restaurant.
Okay. Now you were going to be starting nursing school, but you haven't worked since September. Why have you not worked since September?
Jacob contacted me stating that he would be there with Carter and I was going to be a full-time mom while he went to work.
Okay. And that ended in November?
November 13th.
Okay. Why haven't you worked since November?
I have been receiving state aid and trying to, let me find the right words for this. I have been tutoring my son every day due to how far back he is in schooling.
Are you capable of working?
I am.
Okay. Does you said you live with your boyfriend?
Yes, sir.
How long have y'all been dating?
Since December.
Okay. When did you move in?
Beginning of March.
Okay. Does he work?
He's on disability, but I do odd jobs here and there, like mowing, weed eating, and stuff like that.
Okay. And you live with his parents?
Yes, sir.
Do they support y'all?
Yes, sir.
Do you have the means to take care of Carter on your own right now?
On my own, like without them?
Yes, ma'am. For you to be a parent to Carter on your own. Could you do that right now?
If I don't go to school, yes, I can.
Does your boyfriend have any criminal or CPS history?
No, sir.
Does his parents?
No, sir.
What does his parents do?
His dad is what is I don't know if they'll know what that. He works for North.
I'm sorry. Who are you speaking to? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Ms. Shedrick,
my boyfriend is right next to me.
Okay. You just tell us what you know. You really can't get any help from somebody in answering these questions. Just if you.
Okay. I'm sorry. He works for the satellites for NASA.
Okay. Do you have any CPS history in Texas?
I do.
And what is that for?
The allegations were domestic violence and drug use.
Okay. Against you?
Me and my ex-husband, yes.
Okay. Was there drug use at that time?
No, sir.
Was there domestic violence at that time?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever been a drug user?
I have in the past, yes.
Okay. When's the last time?
Three, 4 years ago. But I used marijuana. The last time I used marijuana was September 16th of last year.
Okay. That was before Carter was out there?
Yes, sir.
Are you still married to somebody else?
At the moment, yes, but I will be officially divorced on August 21st of this year.
And where does that person live? Where does your husband live?
He's in jail in, I believe it's Houston.
In Houston?
I believe so.
Okay.
Either Houston or Austin.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Either Houston or Austin.
Okay, Mr. Trout, let me stop you because I'm very confused about some relationships here. Ms. Schefter, when you said, well, in response to his question about CPS history in Texas, you said there were allegations of domestic violence and drug use between you and, I thought you said your ex-husband. Are you referring to Mr. Craddock? Are you referring to the man that you're married to now, soon to be ex-husband?
My soon to be ex-husband.
Okay. So the CPS involvement had to do with those Texas cases had to do with you and the soon to be ex-husband.
Yes, ma'am.
What is his name?
Glenn Cataract.
Were you and Mr. Craddock ever married?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Trout, but that I just wanted to clarify. All right.
Yes, ma'am. How long have you been married to Glenn?
March 3rd or March 1st was 5 years. No, 19, 20, 21, 22. Yes, 5 years.
So you and Mr. Craddock were together before you married Glenn?
Yes, sir.
You had filed for a modification in a Attorney General's case for your custody of your child. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And when did you file that?
April 19th. Of this year.
of this year?
Yes, sir.
Has the department asked you to drug screen for him?
No, sir.
Would you be willing to?
Yes, sir.
If Carter was to be placed back in the home, placed back with you, would your boyfriend and his parents be willing to be interviewed for that?
Yes, sir.
When's the last time you saw Carter in person?
I believe April 12th, as Jacob was driving off with him.
And that's gonna be my next question. April 12th, Carter came from California back to Texas. How did he get there?
They were in a white car as they were driving away. I don't know how they got there.
Who is they?
Jacob Craddock, some blonde lady that was with them, and Carter.
Where were they driving away from?
The Lake Elsinore Police Department.
Okay, why were y'all at the police department?
That is where we decided to have our designated drop off and pick up.
Okay. So you and Jacob made a decision to meet at the police department for you to hand Carter back over to Jacob.
Yes, sir. When we had court on April 5th with the courthouse out here, that's when it was decided that we would meet up at the police station here in Lake Elsinore, because there is an active restraining order against me and Jacob, to where I didn't want him knowing where I live.
Okay. So when he was out there in November till now, you were moved in with your boyfriend in December?
March,
I believe
March,
you said.
yeah, sorry.
So Jacob doesn't know where that address is. Is that what you're saying?
As far as I'm understanding, no, he does not.
Okay. All right. If the court decided today for the department to have temporary managing conservator, would you be willing to work services and cooperate with the department?
Whatever you guys need, I'm willing to do.
Okay. When do you have court for your other child?
Tomorrow.
And is that child also Jacob's?
Biological son, yes.
Okay. And is that Jacob Jr.? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Do you have custody of Jacob Jr.?
I have my legal rights. There's confusion on what's going on, because I was told that if I didn't sign the paperwork that he would have been removed from me, but the judge or the person that I've talked to, I'm not sure if it was a judge or a lawyer, said that it was a willing removal. So I'm honestly confused on this situation when it comes to Jacob.
How long have you not had custody of him?
4 years.
Okay. In those 4 years, have you tried to figure out your confusion on that?
Yes. And Jacob Craddock himself has told me multiple times that I've lost my rights, that there's a DNR. He's told me multiple times that Jacob has died. So I had my parents, my sisters, and my friends messaging the nurse that had Jacob and trying to get information on him through them. And is there any way that we can have Jacob Craddock mute himself? His moving around his phone's a little too loud.
Yeah, and you're going to need to back up, Ms. Schechter. I didn't hear quite all of your answer, but I'm not sure the court reporter did either.
Okay. Can you ask the question one more time, please?
In the last 4 years, since you have not had custody of Jacob Jr., have you tried to figure out and get an answer to your confusion?
I have through, I've tried calling Dean, which was my family-based service lady, and she never called me back. And when I called Susan Cadena or Barbara Tennyson, which are the two nurses that were taking care of him, the minute they left, they blocked my phone number, they blocked Facebook, they blocked anything to do with me. Anytime that I've called a lawyer, lawyers, when it comes to a special needs child that's on life support, is 50 to 60 grand. And at the moment, since up until recent, I haven't had the money to provide something like that for my son. And every time that I've asked Jacob Craddock how Jacob Craddock Jr. is doing, I've been told, well, he's in the hospital, he's dying, either that or he's dead. So the last time I was told that he had passed away, I called the Social Security office and asked, what is really happening? What's going on? And that's when they opened up this investigation.
In all of that, did you ever come out here and try to go visit with him?
I was told in the beginning that if I was to show up, that Susan Cadena or John Cadena would shoot me. And out in Texas, I don't want to take chances with my life, especially since I know them personally, and I do believe that they would.
So the answer is no, you have not gone out to see your son.
I haven't been allowed to.
Okay. You still have your rights?
I do.
Okay. Do you have any visitations?
I'm supposed to be able to see him every Thursday and go to all doctor's appointments, know of all doctor's appointments and hospital stays and med changes, and allowed to help with his care if needed. But that's all been denied of me for 4 years.
And you haven't gone back to court on that?
No, we go to court on tomorrow.
But in the 4 years, you have not taken
No,
any action to see your son?
No, sir.
So currently, are these the only 3 children you have?
Yes, sir.
And currently, you don't have custody of any other 3 children?
No, sir.
Outside of the modification for Carter, have you exercised or taken any legal action to get custody of your children?
Not up until recently. I haven't had the means to.
Okay. You had the means to move to California a year ago?
My aunt paid for that.
I'll pass the witness right now, Your Honor.
Okay, and I want to clarify just a couple of things. All right, so the child that is under the Gray County CPS case, which child is that? Okay,
Jacob.
That's the child that you've been talking about that is medically fragile.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure that I understood that correctly. Okay, great. And then the other child is where?
Tyson or with his father in McLean.
Okay. So Jacob Jr. has been under the department's care for quite some time then.
He was with a nurse. I'm not sure if he was under CPS care or her care.
Well, does the department have permanent or what we would call permanent custody of that child?
I'm not sure. Like I said, when I talked to the lawyer and to the CPS worker, that they said that they gave guardianship, conservatorship to Susan Cadena.
And that's the nurse?
Yes, ma'am.
Was she also a foster parent?
No, ma'am. She was just a nurse that was taking care of him before he was removed.
When was he removed?
November of 2019.
Okay. All right. So it's got to be a PMC case. Sounds to me like. Okay. What that means is it is not an open case like what we're here to decide whether this one's going to be. It's that's old enough that case would have had to have had a final disposition in it. So probably the department was named PMC in that case. But okay. And it's of nominal, or minimal relevance to what's going on with this child. But some of this is just confusing, and I'm trying to make sure I have my facts straight. So, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Trout, you can resume your questioning.
I'll pass the witness at this time, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Barfield.
All right. Misty, if you'll do me a favor, And just if you have any questions about my question, just I'll rephrase if I need to. Currently, you've stated you're residing in California. How many people reside in the home?
Including myself, there's 4.
Okay. And who names, who resides in the home at this particular time? And please use names.
Okay. Clyde, Michelle.
And who is that?
That is my boyfriend's father.
Okay. And he's the person that works for NASA, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And now, who is the next person that lives there?
Michelle.
Yeah, okay. And is that Clyde's wife?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And does she work out of the home?
No. She sells doTERRA oils on her website.
Okay. You reside there?
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
And who else resides there?
Richard.
And is that your boyfriend?
Yes, sir.
And how long have you been residing in this residence?
Since March of this year.
Okay. And would you describe the residence for the court? Is it a home? Is it an apartment? How many bedrooms? Would you please give a description?
Say 4-bedroom, 2-bath, double wide on about an acre of land, with an apartment up above the garage. There's what we call the Coca-Cola room. There's the Thomas Kincaid room. There's the Paris room. There's the Kissing Kids room. My room is Brown room, which is where there's it's safari themed, and then we have Clyde's office. There's
okay, that I think okay, so it is a single family dwelling with plenty of room.
Correct.
Okay. Carter resided there for a while, is that right?
Yes, sir.
What were the living arrangements when Carter resided there?
Carter and I shared a room up in the Brown room, and that was just until Richard was going to move up into the apartment, and I was going to have Richard's room. That way Carter had
just tell me what happened. Okay. You have a tendency to kind of drift off, so I'm going to try to refocus just a little bit. So if Carter would to go reside again, please tell the court where Carter would stay and what the living arrangements would be.
Okay.
If you would please do that.
Carter would be in the Brown room. I would be in the other room, and Richard would be up in the apartment.
Okay. Now you're using all sorts.
Sorry?
You're using descriptions with rooms that have names on them, which is fine. So the Brown room, is that a bedroom?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Carter would have his own room.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is that room appropriately furnished?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it sounds to me like that would you consider this to be a safe environment for Carter?
Most definitely, yes, sir.
Okay. So now in regards to your situation, you were enrolled full-time in nursing school. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that is to start when?
In the fall.
Okay. And currently, have you had, without getting into what was said, have you had conversations with the Deskins about you and Carter being allowed to live there?
Yes, sir.
And as a result of those conversations, do you have any concerns that if Carter were to come back to you, that you would not be able to provide a safe living environment for Carter?
No, sir. I have no concerns.
Okay. Now, financially, are you currently working odd jobs?
Yes, sir.
And you stated you're getting government assistance.
Yes, sir.
Is that through the state of California?
Yes, sir.
And what assistance are you receiving through the state of California?
As of right now, I'm receiving food stamps. When Carter's here, I receive CalWorks, which is now. Do you need me to explain that?
Is that a financial aid program?
Yes, sir.
Do you receive a check from the state of California?
It's on a card, but yes, I get up to a certain amount every month.
Based upon your living situation with the Deskins, do you believe, and your assistance from California, do you believe you can financially support Carter at this particular time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, in regards to you mentioned that you'd be willing to take a drug test for the court. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what do you anticipate the results of that drug test to be?
Negative for everything.
Okay. And does anybody in the home use drugs?
No, sir.
Okay. So if you were to go to school, now currently, where is Carter placed?
From my knowledge, he's with Jacob's ex-wife.
Do you have concerns about that placement?
I do.
What are your concerns?
When Carter was with Jacob, that's where she was letting him.
Objection, Your Honor. There's been no establishment of personal knowledge.
Sustained.
Do you know this person?
I do personally. I know her.
Okay. Do you have any personal knowledge about any events that may have occurred regarding abuse towards Carter?
I do. I have text messages between me and her.
Objection, hearsay.
Well, she hadn't tried to say what the messages say. She can say she's got text messages, but that's not hearsay. So overall.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you believe Carter would be safer with you than the current placement?
I do.
Is that because, do you believe you have a stable home environment where you are right now?
Yes, sir, I do.
Do you believe, based on the relationship between Jacob and the individual with placement right now, that is not a good situation?
Objection, Your Honor. Lack of personal knowledge for information is based on hearsay.
Sustained.
Are you asking that Carter be placed with you?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any personal knowledge of domestic abuse between you and Jacob?
None that was reported other than November 13th.
I didn't ask you if it was okay. Has Jacob ever done anything to you that would be considered domestic abuse in your opinion?
Yes, sir.
What?
Physically striking me over my head. Sexual abuse.
You mentioned a restraining order. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
Is that a restraining order? Is that a restraining order between Jacob towards you?
No, that's a restraining order I placed on Jacob.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yes, sir.
You placed, okay, and that got granted.
Yes, sir.
Is that because you fear Jacob?
I do. Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have concerns that could be happening in other places with Jacob?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
That's not speculation at all. If she has concerns, she has concerns.
She can express she has concerns.
I'm going to re-ask my question. Do you have concerns because Jacob abused you that could be occurring to other people?
Yes, sir, I do.
Do you have concerns about Carter being placed in that type of situation with someone involved with Jacob?
Yes, sir.
Now, in regards to your court case coming up in June, you filed that petition in intervention, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you believe it's in Carter's best interest for you to have custody of him at this time?
Yes, sir, I do.
And why do you believe that?
Because he has a stable environment. He had his roots grounded here with doctors, dentists. He made all his appointments. He was making friends. He was going to the park. He was 3 meals a day. He didn't have to worry about where he was sleeping. The punishment was no physical punishment. It was all room isolation. When I say isolation, you have 30 minutes in your room, no TV, no tablets, no phones, no toys. You get to sit on the bed, and when you come out, you tell me what you did wrong. Or you get to hold a log up for 30 seconds. There was no physical punishment here due to...
Let me ask you this. Was Carter enrolled in school?
Yes, sir. He was.
How was he doing in school?
It was very difficult getting him caught up to where he needed to be.
So, when he was in possession of his father, when Carter came to live with you, was he behind in school?
Yes, sir.
And was he in the custody of his father at that particular time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you been tutoring him?
With the help of others.
Okay. What other people were helping tutor him?
Michelle Deskin, his teacher, did a little extra work with him at school. When she had free time, she would do speedy reader with him. She would do flashcards with him as to where she was supposed to be doing book work or something. She would spend more time with him, seeing how far behind he was.
Okay. Now, are the Deskins educated individuals? In other words, do you know if they have college degrees?
Yes, Mr. Deskin does.
Do you know about Miss Deskin?
I honestly have never asked her that question.
Okay. Have they assisted you, the Deskins, in helping Carter and his educational needs?
Yes, sir.
Have they provided a good support system for you and Carter?
Phenomenal, yes.
Okay. Do you have any reason to believe that you and Mr. Deskin's relationship, or your relationship with the Deskins, is in any jeopardy that you would have to leave there at any time or any time soon?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, in regards to, you mentioned doctor's appointments and dentists. While Carter was in your care, custody, and control, did you make sure that he went to the doctor?
Yes, sir.
And did you make sure he went to the dentist?
Yes, sir.
And how is his health right now? At least the last time you saw him.
He has asthma, severe allergies, which was, no, I'm not going to say that. To my knowledge, which was
lost the dad.
We've lost Mr. Craddock.
Okay.
Okay. I want to do this. While we're waiting for him to log back in, let me just interject. I had no idea that this was going to take as much time, and obviously we're not anywhere close to finishing this. Mr. Trout, I have a question, if you can provide an answer. How long does it take the department to run criminal history information or any CPS history on out-of-state residents?
I'm not sure. I can ask Ms. Joint. She's on the supervisor real quick, how long that would take.
As far as criminal, Judge, we can get it fairly quickly. They do live in a state that does not provide CPS history without a court order.
Is there any way that I can help with that?
Well, hang on just a second, Ms. Schechter. So when you say pretty quickly, Ms. Jordan, what are you talking about? A matter of days?
Like on the criminal, no, I could have it requested right now, and it's just a matter of a special investigator getting it back to me.
So like we're talking about a few hours?
Probably not even that. Probably maybe 30 minutes.
What? Okay, let me ask, because I've got a final and another hearing scheduled that I really need to get taken up. This is more of a question for the lawyers. Can you all resume this at, say, about 1:30?
Your Honor, I'm actually at Randall County Courthouse. I have a plea. I may have a contested motion to revoke. The plea won't take any time at all. I just get it done. I can get that done here momentarily if we recess. It would probably be later in the afternoon because I also have a motion to modify bond reduction at 1:30, but I don't anticipate that taking a whole bunch of time. But I mean, I can reconvene, because this is important.
Well,
it's just a matter of me getting this. I'm just booked. I'm kind of booked like you are today.
Well, like 2 o'clock, maybe. Is that a possibility?
Probably.
2:30.
Yeah, 2:30 would be better.
Ms. Naranjo, Mr. Nowak.
Well, 1:30 is better, but in deference to Brooks's schedule, I can make 2:30 work.
Let's say we start looking for a different day.
Yeah, I mean, just in case.
I do have a number of questions for the current witness.
I'm sure that you do, and we haven't even gotten to your client, and we haven't gotten to the department folks. I mean, so I think this would, even if we get started at 2:30, I think it's going to take the balance of the day. And I may or may not have an interruption somewhere in there. I don't know that yet. Okay, Ms. Taylor's saying she's got an appointment at 3 o'clock, so that kind of settles that. Well, okay, it really doesn't, because we could record, so we could proceed without her. But I will defer whether or not you all want to look at a different date and time. Ms. Katie, what do we have Thursday? Let's see the Thursday docket.
We have on Thursday docket, Your Honor, we have that other adversary, and then we have that motion for monitor return hearing. That's probably going to take a while.
I was more wondering what our afternoon looked like.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Just a minute and let me grab it.
Judge, you don't have anything set in the afternoon?
Judge, Thursday would be much better for me, just saying.
I cannot do Thursday afternoon. I don't know if Ms. Zavala is comfortable filling in at that point, considering how much testimony has been taken today. I don't know, but I cannot do Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we need the continuity of one attorney hearing that.
I'm good on Thursday, Judge.
Okay, well,
you only have one adversary on the 6th, but you've got a lot of after finals, and it'll be a different reporter.
Let me look at, hang on a minute. Let me look at something on the 4th.
Do I need to be present for this next hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, on the 6th, I'll be on a plane out to Texas for the court hearing that I have for the modification on the 7th. And then on tomorrow, I'm flying out there. And then the 31st, I'll be flying home.
All right, Ms. Katie, I think on the 4th, I'm not going to be tied up as long as what I thought. So I think the afternoon of the 4th would be available.
Okay.
So what's that look like to everybody else?
I'm open on that day.
Good with me, Judge.
In the afternoon, Judge, on the 4th?
Mm-hmm.
That'll work for me, Judge.
Yeah, I have a looks like I have a Zoom plea at 1:30. Which other than that, I'm open.
Okay.
And that won't take long at all. And I may be able to even reschedule that if I absolutely have to. It's in looks like it's in Randall County Court of Law number 1. So maybe with a little intervention from the court, maybe I can try to reschedule that on my own. If not, that's all I've got on the 4th. That really would work better than this afternoon, because I'm just afraid this afternoon I've got 2 contested hearings and I don't want everybody waiting on me. I'll be honest.
Well, I would, if you could possibly get it rescheduled. I mean, it would be great if we could.
I have to try to do that.
If we could start this at 1:30, that would be very helpful.
Let's just schedule this for 1:30, Judge, and I'll do what I'll figure it out.
If you need me to make a phone call or anything, I'm happy to do it if I need to.
Let me work on it, and then I'll let you know if I need your help.
So, Mr. Trout, I want to enter this just as a kind of an interim order to assist getting any CPS history out of California. I just want to issue I don't care what we call it, but just an interim temporary order requesting any CPS history on the individuals in the home.
Yes, ma'am.
In California. And then, of course, obviously, Ms. Jordan, I want y'all to move forward with searching criminal history.
And Judge, can we have that order also include getting Ms. Schechter's CPS history?
Oh, yeah, she's in the home. So everybody in the home.
And I'm sure my client will assist in any information that y'all need. Do what you need to do. Is that right, Misty?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I mean, there may be some personal information we're going to need, but dates of birth, social security numbers, things like that. So, Ms. Schechter, they're going to be in contact with you probably to obtain that information. So
yes,
we'll just stop where we're at this point. Because Ms. Taylor will not be back with us that day, does everybody know where we've left off?
Yes, Your Honor. I was asking questions.
Yeah, just as long as you make a note about where you were in your questioning. Ms. Taylor, it would be helpful. Would you just tell me what the last question and answer was?
I believe, Judge, I was just going through who was in the home and I kind of that situation.
Yeah, and talking about severe asthma and what Correct. The other son's conditions were.
Yeah, medical needs of Carter.
Okay, that's where we're going to leave it off then.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right then, my apologies, and we'll see everybody back on the 4th at 1:30.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I have one
Misty,
question. Go ahead.
Yes.
If you guys are needing drug testing, and since California is not compliant with you guys, I'll be there the 30th and the 31st. Would you guys like for me to do drug testing while I'm out there?
I'm sure they would love that.
Okay, so we'll just straighten that up with the lawyer and figure out a date and time.
Mr. Trout, you can make that part of the interim order.
Okay.
And has Mr. Craddock drug screened for us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. So just make that part of this interim order.
And if I believe Care Express, and if the department, the caseworker, investigator, or investigator, if y'all would let Misty know where and when to be, I mean, I'll assist any way I can. That if y'all make sure she knows to do that, that'd be great. That'd speed things up.
Will do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, Misty, we'll talk between now and the 4th. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, bye.
And where we left off, Mr. Barfield was questioning his client, and my note was we had just started discussing, or Mr. Barfield had just started asking her about some of Carter's medical needs.
Yes, Your Honor, that's my recollection. I do have a question before I start back up. We had, before we broke at the last hearing, we had discussed about drug screening for my client, everything like that, and some other housekeeping issues that my client was going to be here to Amarillo a couple of times. I was just wondering if any progress was made on any of that. And the reason I ask is because I don't want to ask questions I don't need to ask.
Okay, so I had indicated I entered some interim orders asking to get criminal histories on everybody that was living in the same home where mother is living, and then also to get their CPS history, and then interim order for her to drug screen when she was in Texas. I don't recall, let's see, I'm not sure when that court date was. I don't remember that, but anyway, so if Mr. Trout, if you know any of those things, if we could just have a real quick update.
I've not got updates on those, Your Honor. I did file that proposed interim order the other day. I haven't seen that the court signed it and sent it back, but I did file it on Friday, I believe. I know you made those orders in court, but I filed a written. And I know that Mom did come into Amarillo. I have not heard whether she drug screened or not.
I can ask.
Okay. I do know that she met with St. Francis, but that's about all I know.
And if somebody has information before I start asking questions, that'd be great too. That's up to the court how you want to handle that, Judge, question and answer, or however, just information. I don't know.
Well,
and okay, I just got a response. She did drug screen for us, Your Honor. I have not seen those results.
She did. We also got the results today.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Durant, if you will circulate those.
Yes, ma'am. She took a drug screen and a hair follicle and a UA, and both were negative.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Durant.
Okay, and I'd have to go back and look because I think I've signed everything that was in my queue, but I'm not going to go back and look at that right now. But
yes, ma'am.
Anyway, so do we have any? I guess this is a question for Ms. Durant. Do we have any information on criminal history or CPS history?
I was able to run criminal history on household members in Miss. I'm going to say her last name wrong. I'm sorry. In her home. Yes, and there was nothing found. As far as CPS history, we're not able to obtain that from California.
Okay. All right. Okay, Mr. Barfield, I don't know if that helps you.
Well, I would just ask the court as soon as those test results are circulated that the drug screen results be admitted into evidence for the purposes of the adversary hearing. If we need to name it defense or respondent Schechter's Exhibit 1, that would be great. And I'd ask, obviously, that any criminal history documentation be entered into evidence as well as respondent Schechter Exhibit 2 for the purpose of the adversary hearing.
Hey, Bruce, you're cutting in and out a little bit.
Yeah, I'm at the office, and this is not the computer I like using, but I got stuck here. I'll talk slow.
Okay. So those exhibits will also need to go to Ms. Goodman. Once those get circulated and everything, I want everybody to have an opportunity to look at them, and then I'll rule on admissibility or not. Give everybody an opportunity to see them and then make any objections they want to make.
And I'll go ahead and proceed now, Judge.
Actually, just a quick housekeeping matter before we get started on testimony. I was not present at the beginning of this hearing. We addressed it through email. I was able to watch all of the testimony as it occurred. There was no objection from any counsel for me to step back in. So I just wanted to announce Stacey Zavala for Carter.
Perfect. All right. Okay, then, Mr. Barfield, if you want to resume questioning your witness, Ms. Schechter, you're still under oath.
Ma'am, Misty, I believe the last question I asked you, does Carter have any specialized medical needs?
Oh, but I'm aware Carter has asthma.
I can't hear you, Ms. Schechter.
Just one moment.
All right, so if you'll just start that answer over.
As far as I'm aware from doctor's visits out here, Carter has allergies, which he's on singular 4 milligrams for, and then he also has asthma. He's on albuterol inhaler for that. Dad had stated to me that Carter had an IEP for autism spectrum disorder out in Amarillo. I don't know how much truth there is to that. The school here said that he was fine, so as far as I'm aware, all we have are severe allergies and asthma.
And when Carter's in your possession, were you able to administer those medications and make sure he had an inhaler at all times for his safety?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, in regards to you came to Amarillo and you did your screen, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in the last hearing, you'd indicated it would be negative, and in fact, you've now learned it was. Does that surprise you at all?
No, sir.
You are not a drug user, are you?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, in regard, and nobody in your home has a criminal background.
No, sir.
Now, in your testimony, I believe when you were being questioned earlier, you had indicated that you'd had possession and access to Carter for approximately 6 months, almost 6 months continuous, prior to Mr. Craddock taking Carter back to Texas. Is that what you testified to?
From November 1st to April 12th, I had Carter on my own.
Okay. And during that period of time, did any harm, neglect, or anything happen to Carter?
No, sir.
Okay. Would you let that happen to Carter?
No, sir, I would not.
Now, you'd mentioned there were 3 case incidents out in California involving CPS. Do you recall that?
I do, yes, sir.
Let's talk about the first case incident. What is as brief as you can, please. What was the cause of that first case incident?
The police that came and removed Jacob from the home on November 13th made the call because from the report stating Jacob stated to the police officer that I didn't have the means to financially care for my child.
Okay. So I guess what happened? Just in plain English, tell me what happened.
They came, they did their investigation, they did a drug test, and everything was ruled out, and the case was closed.
Okay. Let's talk about the second incident. Plain English. What happened?
They came for allegations of abuse and, once again, financial instability. They came, they did their investigation, and then they closed the case.
Who was being accused of abuse?
I was.
And do you know, if you know, who accused you of that?
I'm not aware.
Do you have any idea what type of abuse was alleged?
The mental and physical abuse.
To your knowledge, was any physical abuse ever found on Carter?
No, sir.
In other words, bruises, bumps, injuries, hospitalizations, medical care needed, anything even close to that nature?
Not on the second case, no.
Okay. Now, was that case closed?
Yes, sir.
The third incident, let's talk about it. What happened?
I opened a case through the court here. They came, they did their investigation in this document here. Carter states abuse from dad.
Excuse me, Judge. Excuse me.
Yeah.
That's hearsay. That's my objection, Judge.
Okay. Yeah, okay, Misty, you can't. There's certain procedures or rules that we have to go by, so please don't show documents on the screen unless requested by the court or counsel. Please, is that okay?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, understood.
All right.
Okay. So I opened up I don't know what it's called, but it says child support division or child services division. The court had a service worker named Danielle Kitchen. She came, she did her investigation. Carter stated
objection.
You can't state. Yeah, you can't state what other people have said either. Okay, you can state what you know. Go ahead, Judge.
Okay.
Hold on. All right, sustain the objection. You guys got to let everybody get time here. Okay.
And just try to testify as to just what you know, not what others said. Okay.
Mr. Barfield, you're cutting out. Can you repeat that for me?
I was just telling Schechter to just state what she has personal knowledge of. She was told.
Okay, you're still cutting out, Brooks. I don't know what. It's like it fades in and out.
What I can do, Judge, I can re-log in on my phone and it won't cut out. You want me to do that?
Probably be easier for Ms. Goodman.
Let me do that. Let me just log in on my phone.
Okay.
Thanks. I hate this computer.
Don't call it any names. We're live on YouTube.
Okay, I'm back in San Francisco.
All right.
All right. May I continue, Your Honor?
Only if you left your heart in San Francisco.
Hey, I have done that before.
Okay, you may proceed.
Misty, okay. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you a lot better. Yes, sir.
All right. Sorry about that. Now, so in regards to my understanding is you have a private civil case that is scheduled to go to court. Is that still scheduled to go to court June 7th?
For Carter, yes.
Well, that's okay. And that is on a modification that you filed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is that because of some of the incidents that have occurred as a result of this CPS case?
Yes, sir.
Do you believe it would be in Carter's best interest to be placed with you?
Yes, sir.
And do you believe that you are a non-offending parent in this case?
Yes, sir.
Now, you did let Carter go back with Mr. Craddock because were there court orders in place?
Yes, sir.
And pursuant to those court orders, did you feel Did you believe if you did not let that happen, you would be violating court orders?
Yes, sir.
Did you really want to let Carter go back with Mr. Craddock?
No, I did not. No, sir.
Why did you feel that way?
Knowing Mr. Craddock's situations, addictions, and home stability, I didn't feel that it was safe for my son.
Okay. How did it make you feel when you had to put Carter in that vehicle?
Very stressed, and like I was sending my son to be homeless.
Okay.
And putting him in danger.
And is that why you filed the civil suit modification?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you didn't just put Carter in that car just to be rid of him so you wouldn't have to deal with it?
No.
Okay. Now, currently, have you cooperated to the best of your ability with CPS in this case?
Yes, sir.
And when I say CPS, for the record, I'm referring to either department workers or St. Francis people or anybody involved. You understand that, don't you?
Yes, sir. I understand.
Now, are you asking that the court place Carter in your possession?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. We had touched upon this earlier. Do you feel like Carter's current placement is in his best interests?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay. Do you feel you can provide a more safe, stable, and structured environment for Carter than either the department or Mr. Craddock at this period in time?
I do.
Okay. All right. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right. So we passed to Mr. Barfield and Mr. Nowak.
Thank you, Judge. Just a few questions. I don't want to call you Misty, even though it's easier. Is it Schechter?
Yes, sir. You pronounced it correct.
Thank you so much, Ms. Schechter. My name is Vince Nowak, and I represent Jacob. You understand that, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you currently live in California?
Yes, sir.
And I think you just told Mr. Barfield that you had Carter from November 1st of 2023 until April 12th of 2024?
Yes, sir.
What was your visitation or living arrangements with Carter prior to November 1st of 2023?
Living with my Aunt Lisa and my Uncle Bill in a 2-bedroom, 2-bath home.
Carter was?
No, Carter was with Jacob.
Okay. So let me be more clear. And just for another frame of reference, I think you said you had Carter November 2023 through April 2024. How come you didn't have him prior to November 2023?
Jacob would not let me see my son, interfering with child custody.
Okay. Carter is 7 years old?
Yes, sir.
And I hate repeating myself, but he lived with you for 6 months, November to April, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And prior to that, you're telling me that you couldn't see Carter because Jacob denied you possession?
Yes, sir.
Were y'all married, or was this just a custody case?
We were never married. We have 2 kids together. We were together for 5 years, from October of 2013 to November of 2018.
Okay. You mentioned earlier, ma'am, that you have a petition to modify currently filed, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you're going to court soon on that, correct?
On the 7th, yes, sir.
Okay. What court is that filed in? Who's the judge?
I'm not going to show the documents. I'm sorry. I do have to look at them to give you the correct information. It says District Court 320th.
Okay. Does it say Randall or Potter County?
This says District Court, Potter County, Texas.
That might just be a Potter County. That was probably a stupid question on my part. So you're seeking to modify a prior order that gives you and Jacob access and possession to Carter, correct?
Yes, sir.
What does the prior order say with respect to your possession and access to Carter? In other words, how often under the prior order were you supposed to have Carter?
The 1st, 3rd, and 5th weekend of every month, alternating holidays and with written notice 42 days during the summer.
And other than the 1st, 3rd, and 5th, and the holidays and the summer visits, other than that, did Jacob have possession of Carter?
He had possession of Carter throughout the whole time. He was not letting me exercise any of my visitations.
Was the order that you're seeking to bonify, ma'am, was that order one that you agreed to?
Yes, sir.
Who's your current lawyer on the modification?
I am seeking representation for that as well.
Okay. Who was your lawyer on the initial order that gave you 1st, 3rd, and 5th weekend possession?
I was self-representation.
Okay. Did you agree to the 1st, 3rd, and 5th possession schedule?
I did.
Okay. Why?
I didn't have the representation to fight for anymore.
Is it fair to say that, and what approximately, and you might have it in front of you, ma'am, what was the date of the first order that gave you the 1st, 3rd, and 5th weekends?
Just give me one moment and I will be able to find that for you. On October 19th, 2022, the court hears this case.
Up until October 19th of 2022, were you living with Jacob?
No, sir.
Did you ever live with him?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you live together and separate and then live together again, or was it just one living together and then a clean separation?
There were prior incidents where Jacob would just disappear for 3 months and then, excuse me, and then come home.
After the October 19th, 2022 order that gave you 1st, 3rd, and 5th weekend possession, how often did you exercise that possession?
Jacob let me exercise that possession once after the orders were made. And then after he came and picked Carter up from that one visitation, he did not return for any of the other visitations. Okay.
So you're saying there was one visitation here in Amarillo and then the one in California? Is that accurate?
No, sir. I was able to visit Carter for one visitation after the October 19th. And after that visit, Jacob had denied me access to my son from the weekend after the 19th to November 1st of last year.
Of 23.
Yes, sir.
So you're saying the weekend after October 19th, 2022, you got one visit up until November of 2023.
Yes, sir.
Where were you living between October 19th, 2022 and November 2023?
Lubbock, Texas, Little Rock, Arkansas.
Were you living in Lubbock when the order was entered, that the October 19th, 2022? Were you living in Lubbock when that order was entered?
No, sir. I was living in Shamrock, Texas.
Okay. So the order was entered while you were living in Shamrock?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Okay. When did you move to Shamrock? You know what? Let me just make it simple. When did you and Jacob break up for the last time, in your mind? The last time I'm done.
Just November 13th of last year.
Okay.
Prior
to that, you would consider yourself to be in a relationship with Jacob, correct?
No, sir. It had been 5 years. I had been married and was in a relationship with somebody else for 5 years.
I guess my question is, what kept you a full year from seeing your son?
Jacob Craddock.
Did you had an order giving you possession, correct?
No, not in my possession. No, sir.
You knew there was an order giving you possession on the 1st, 3rd, and 5th, correct?
Yes, sir. And I contacted the police department multiple times to try to exercise these, the visitations, and they said that I needed to take him back to court.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get a
feel. Let me ask this real simple. I'm trying to get a feel of where this little guy's lived his entire life. I know for a fact he was with you from November 23 to April 24, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we got that down pat. Since then, he's either been with Jacob or living with Christina, correct?
As far as I understand, I have not been told since Jacob took Carter from my house or from the police station here in Lake Elsinore on April 12th. I am not fully aware of where my son has been.
And Jacob had every right to remove Carter from your care because it was his time of possession, correct?
Due to court order, yes, sir. But there is a prior restraining order keeping him from being able to take Carter from November to April 12th.
Jacob had a court order allowing him to exercise his possession in April of 2024, correct?
Yes, sir.
So here's my question, I guess. So you had Carter for those 6 months. Where was he living for the first 6.5 years of his life?
Until he was 2.5, he was with me every day. Was placed in Jacob's care due to me losing my home and having to move. Then Jacob had him 2 years. I got him back for another 6 months. Then the court order was placed, this order that we are speaking of, where I have my visitations and he has custody of Carter, was placed in October. And then as of November last year, Jacob brought Carter to me. There was an incident where Jacob had to be removed from the home. There was a restraining order against Jacob on me and Carter, to where Jacob did not have rights to come pick up Carter or have any visitations with Carter until April 12th of this year.
And is that,
I'm sorry?
Is that when the order expired?
No, California did not have jurisdiction over Carter because he wasn't a resident of California. He was 23 days shy of being a resident of California.
You'll agree with me that Jacob was within his rights, to your knowledge, in exercising his possession of Carter in April of 2024, correct?
Correct.
Who is Christina Craddock?
Christine Talent is Jacob Craddock's ex-wife.
Okay. Anything bad to say about her?
She's a great mom. She's a very good friend. The only thing that I could say that we disagree on, I wouldn't say that I have anything bad to say about her, is that we don't agree with our religion and our parenting styles.
And I don't know this for a fact, I'm looking at my notes right now, Ms. Schechter, but if Carter is currently placed with Christina, would you agree with me that that is a safe placement for Carter?
Due to the fact of her and Jacob's on and off relationship, no, I do not feel that she would keep Carter safe from her father. Anything else, yes, Christina would keep Carter safe from anything other than Jacob Craddock. I know that for a fact.
Well, if Christina promised to Judge Baker that I'm going to follow Judge Baker's orders, kind of like the way Jacob followed the orders out of the 320th, if Christina were to promise to Judge that she would follow the judge's orders, would you agree with me that Christina would likely follow those orders?
Not against Jacob Craddock, no.
Does he have some sort of hold over women?
Can I ask for you to maybe reword that question, because I'm not understanding?
Yeah, that's probably a stupid question. When's the last time you had visitation with Carter?
I had a virtual visit with Carter about 3 weeks ago with the St. Francis, and prior to that, the last time I seen Carter was April 12th of this year.
How come you haven't had more visits with Carter?
I came to Texas to exercise my visits, and Jacob denied me my visits, where I then filed a interference with child custody in the Potter County Police Department.
Amarillo? Amarillo?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Judge, I think at this point with this witness, that's all I have at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the witness.
Ms. Schechter, when did you file a complaint about interference with child custody?
April 19th.
Of this year?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so very recently. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Ms. Zavala.
Hi, Ms. Schechter. Okay,
Good morning.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around the timeline. You had mentioned that Carter was with you for the first 2.5 years of his life. Is it correct that you brought Carter to the paternal grandparents in Shamrock when he was 18 months old?
No, ma'am. I had his second birthday with me at my home.
Okay. When did you drop off Carter with paternal grandparents in Shamrock?
About three to 6 months after his second birthday.
There's somebody at my door. I apologize. Give me 1 second.
Okay. And at that point, did you have either Tyler or Jacob in your care?
I'm sorry, I'm not aware who Tyler is.
Oh, I'm sorry, I may have the names wrong. I apologize. I had in my notes that you've got 3 biological children. Is that correct?
Yes, it's Tyson.
Tyson,
Jacob,
I'm sorry.
and Carter. No, you're fine. You're fine. Tyson was in his dad's care due to, once again, lack of representation. He was given the same custody agreement that me and Jacob have, and his dad has done the same exact thing that Jacob has, which is interfering with child custody. Excuse me. And Jacob was willingly placed with a nurse November. I want to say, I think it was November 12th between November 18th of 4 years ago that he was placed with his nurse. So, so sorry.
No, you were cutting out at one point. I was just trying to check in with Ms. Goodman to see if she was able to get everything.
It cut out for a second, but I think I heard when she came back, it filled in what she said.
Okay, my apologies. I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out when you took Carter to paternal grandparents in Shamrock, where were the other kids at that point?
Jacob, excuse me, was with his nurse, and Tyson's with his father.
Okay, and then from there, Carter went to go live with Dad from when he was dropped off with the paternal grandparents.
He was placed with his father at his paternal grandmother's house.
Okay, so Carter was living with Dad from that point on.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so and then in August of 22, there were some temporary orders entered that made Dad primary and gave you visitation, right?
August. No, I'm not sure if it was done in August, but because I believe I had him from February 11th to October of 2022. And then Jacob Craddock was able to come and pick Carter up after the ruling. I may have my dates wrong.
Okay, so August 17th, you didn't have court with the Attorney General's office, and at that time, Dad was given the exclusive right in a temporary order signed by Judge Fowler on August 24th, 2022. 2022.
Sorry, just one moment. I could have, like I said, I may have my dates wrong, but I thought Carter didn't leave my home until October 19th.
So if there's an order on file in this cause number that orders you to hand over the child to Jacob on Sunday, August 21st in Shamrock, you would disagree with that?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Okay, and then after that temporary order, there were some visitations while the case was pending, and it was finalized in October, correct?
I'm not following the dates. I'm sorry, I may have had my dates mixed up with the last judge that I was, or not judge, sorry, the Jacob lawyer on the last visits was not October, they were in August, but.
Okay, so if there's a signed order that states that court took place on October 19th, and then it was signed on October 26th of 22, would you have any reason to disagree with that?
No, other than the lack of knowledge of the date being signed and all that. I just know that what I have in my hand is on October 19th, 2022, the court hears this hearing.
Okay, so on both of these orders, the August one and the October one, it says that you participated in the hearing. Did you not participate in those hearings?
I did. Over Zoom, I did.
Okay, so during that temporary time period, Dad was ordered to drive Jacob to you in Shamrock for visits, correct?
Drive Carter to me, yes, he was.
Okay, and then with the final, it was ordered that when you start your visits with Carter, that you had to come pick him up, and then Jacob would come pick him up from you when the visit was over, correct?
Correct, ma'am.
Okay. So after it was ordered that you had to drive for visits, did you visit him?
Jacob did not allow me to. He cut contact, would not tell me where to meet for these visits. I tried to contact him, and he stated to me that his wife, Christina, would not allow him to exercise these visits.
And this is the Christina you described as a good friend?
Correct.
Okay, so in the order it says that you just simply go to Jacob's house to pick him up. Did you not go to his house to pick him up?
No, I was informed that I was not allowed on the property, that we would meet at a police station there in Amarillo, Texas. And I asked Jacob, it was either at the police station or at the other parents' discretion, wherever we decided, but it had to be at a public place. Mine was ordered for Jacob to pick up Carter at my house, but Jacob and I decided that we would meet at the McDonald's down the street. So wherever Jacob decided to meet to pick up Carter was where we were supposed to meet, and I had to get that information from him, where he done lack of communication. He would not speak to me.
Okay, so at that point, did you file anything with the police about not being able to see your son when you showed up at the designated place in the order?
I didn't show up due to not knowing where I was supposed to go, and every time I tried calling the attorney general, they said we just had we would have to go back to court.
Okay, but the order says pick up at his home, right?
Correct.
Your Honor, I'm going to object.
All right, sustained.
I'm just trying to figure out. So, okay. So after you were ordered to do the driving for the visits, that you would in Shamrock when it was ordered, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever drive to Amarillo to visit him?
No, ma'am. Once again, due to not knowing where I was supposed to pick my son up. There was no communication between me and Jacob. I did not know where I was supposed to go. That's a 120-mile drive to go pick up my son with no communication as to where I am supposed to go in this town.
Okay. So, and then I'm just trying to figure out the rest of the time frame. You were in Shamrock in October of 22, and then you've mentioned at some point after that living in Lubbock, and at some point living in Little Rock, and then at some point you moved to California. So I'm just trying to figure out, so you were in Shamrock in October of 22. Where did you go next?
To California, March 4th of 2023. The Lubbock and Little Rock was prior to this October 2022.
Okay, so when was that? When was Lubbock and Little Rock?
Between 2020 and 2022.
And during that portion, when did you live in Lubbock?
From June 16th, until January? No, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Yes. Late December, early January, I moved to Little Rock, Arkansas.
Okay. Of what year?
21.
So June of 21 to December of 21, you were in Lubbock.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then from there, you moved to Little Rock.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how long were you in Little Rock?
A little less than a year. I think I was there 8 months.
And then you moved from Little Rock. Where did you move to?
Shamrock, Texas, with Jacob Craddock's parents.
And then in what period of time did you live in Shamrock?
From, I want to say, no, it was October. I came back from Little Rock to Shamrock from October 2022 to March 4th of 2023. I lived in Shamrock.
Okay, so when you lived in Lubbock, what contact were you having with Carter?
None. Jacob, once again, would not let me talk to Carter. He would not return any of my messages. He blocked me on all social media aspects.
And I guess let me go back from there. When did you moved to Lubbock in June of 21? Where were you living before then?
I was homeless for 3 months in Shamrock, Texas.
And so was it approximately in 2020 when you gave Carter to the paternal grandparents?
It was whenever he was 2.5 years old. So he was born December, January. I'm sorry, I'm not very good with math on the spot, so just give me one moment. He was 2.5 years old. He was born in 2017.
So I'm just trying to get a clear idea of how much contact you've had with Carter since, and I guess now it sounds like 2019 was when you gave him to the grandparents? 2019?
No,
is that right?
no, 2020.
Okay, 2020?
I got married in 2019. I had him for over a year in 2019, and 2020 is when he went to his grandma with his dad.
Ms. Zavala, I'm gonna interrupt. She's testified repeatedly. He was 2.5 years old. Child was born November of 2017. At 2.5 years of age, that would put it sometime around, say, May, June of 2020, according to her repeated testimony.
Thank you.
From 2020, from when you placed him, is it your testimony that you only had contact with him during the period of the temporary orders and then one visit, you weren't able to get any visits after the final?
There was a period of time that Jacob came to his mom's house when I was living there after I got back in October from Little Rock, Arkansas, that I had observed that Jacob was on drugs and carrying around guns with my child. Jacob came over on February.
Is non-responsive.
I'm trying to come up with a timeline.
I'm just trying to figure out how much contact. That's it.
I understand, but an objection is made. I need to rule. Ms. Schechter, when that happens, you need to stop talking. Everybody needs to let me rule, and then we'll move on. Okay? You guys know how this works. All right. I sustained whoever's objection about non-responsive. That was Ms. Zavala. Then I think I heard Mr. Barfield trying to object, but Ms. Schechter was talking, so I couldn't hear that. Mr. Barfield, what's your objection?
I'm asked and answered. We've been over this several times.
Okay. Sustained. All right, Ms. Zavala, you can ask your next question.
In November of 23, Jacob brought Carter to you in California. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then in mid-November, is it correct that Jacob tried to leave with Carter?
Yes, ma'am. Jacob was removed from the home.
No. Mid-November, yes. Jacob tried to return back to Texas with Carter.
Incorrect. Jacob tried to leave to be homeless with Carter in California.
And in April, you said that Dad took him, but it actually was the court saying, no, these orders are valid, correct?
I did not state Dad took him. Dad came and picked him up. Willingly, a willing court-ordered transfer.
And would you agree that he had been trying to do that since mid-November?
No, ma'am, I would not. He left November 17th, went back to Texas, and did not come back to California until April 12th of the next year.
Pass witness.
Okay, Mr. Trout, back to you.
Just a few questions, Your Honor. Ms. Schechter, your testimony has been that you didn't have an attorney, so you agreed to orders on this case, correct? Your prior orders?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And with your son, Tyson, did you agree to those orders?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And with your son, Jacob Jr., you said that was willfully, correct? That you allowed him to stay with the nurse?
I felt forced into the situation, but by label, it is willful placement.
Okay. So again, you stated you willfully placed and signed to allow him to stay with the nurse.
Correct.
Okay. And your testimony has also been you weren't able to see Tyson due to his dad not allowing.
Correct.
And you've stated that you weren't allowed to see Carter due to dad not allowing.
Correct.
Have you seen Jacob Jr.? Do you have visits with him?
I seen him last Friday, but prior to that, Susan Cadena and Barbara Tennyson were not allowing me on the property to see Jacob Craddock Jr.
Okay. So your testimony as far as all three of your children is you made agreements, but then everybody else kept you from them.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm going to object as a mischaracterization of her testimony. That is not what she's testified to.
Judge, I believe she did testify that all three people have kept her from her kids.
Overrule the objection. She has testified to that.
Just then you testified that when Ms. Zavala asked you that Mr. Craddock had tried to take Carter back to Texas in the middle of November. Your testimony was that he tried to take him to be homeless in California. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. But then you stated he wasn't able to take him, so he went back to Texas. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what makes you think he was trying to be homeless in California instead of coming back to Texas with Carter?
His statement prior to him leaving my home.
Okay. And what was that statement?
That he had nowhere to go.
Okay.
That if he was to leave the home, him and Carter would be on the streets. When I made the call to the police about the incident that happened, the police told me that if I let Carter go, that I would be...
Objection, Your Honor. This is hearsay.
Okay. Sustained. It's hearsay.
So was his full statement, if he left, he had nowhere to go?
Correct.
Okay. But instead he went back to Texas, correct?
As far as my knowledge, correct.
Okay. Do you have any, and I think we talked about it, we didn't get into it too much, but do you have any CPS history in Texas?
Correct. Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. Was there ever a reason to believe determination found for domestic violence between you and your spouse, Glenn?
Correct. Yes, sir.
And was Carter present during that?
He was.
Okay. And when was that?
Right before the hearing, it was 2022.
Okay. And you said right before the hearing, which hearing are you talking about?
The final, excuse me, the final hearing that made the order for the child-parent relations.
Okay, so you're talking about the right before the prior hearing for your prior orders that we've been discussing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe it was in May of 2022.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Just a couple of questions on some of your testimony from the other day when Mr. Barfield was asking you. The home you live in right now is your boyfriend's parents, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Something struck me kind of odd. You started naming off rooms. Y'all have certain names for certain rooms in there?
It's a different color of the room, yes.
I'm sorry, you kind of cut out on me. I didn't hear you.
It's the names of the room are to describe the colors of the room.
Okay.
Theme of the room.
There's one that caught me just odd. Did I hear you say that one of the rooms is called the Kissing Kids room?
Oh my, yes, there's pictures of the old fashioned, the kids, like, would you like for me to show you?
No, I'm just asking. It just caught me odd when you said that, so that's why I'm asking.
Yes, it's an old fashioned, the kissing kids, where it's like, you have, my goodness, that's bad. That was not meant for that. Oh my.
Are you talking about the old upholstery?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Wallpaper.
Do you have, you've only lived there since March, correct?
February.
Okay,
February. Early February.
Okay. Do you have full access to the home at all times?
Correct, yes.
Okay. There's no rooms that you're not allowed into. There's no place you're not allowed to go.
Me, myself, there's
Yes.
there's my boyfriend's dad's office I'm allowed in there, but Carter is not.
Okay. Okay. But the rest of the home you have free range of at all times?
Pretty much. Yes.
That's what I'm sure.
All right, Mr. Barfield.
Now you mentioned some domestic violence in another case, I believe. Who and was that domestic violence committed against you?
No, but it was the whole thing was ruled out due to lack of evidence. It's not even on my record.
I'm confused because Mr. Trout asked you a question about a prior CPS involvement. You remember that?
Correct.
Okay. And then you stated something regarding that there was domestic abuse involved in that case.
Mm-hmm.
Do you call your answer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what I'm asking is, because I'm confused, was there domestic violence as a finding in that CPS case or not?
No, there was not.
Okay. Thank you. All right. You have been living in this place for since February.
Correct.
Okay. And it's a stable home.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I've already asked all those questions ahead. I'm not going to re-ask those questions, so I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Nowak.
May it please the court, I promise I'll be brief. Misty, you have 3 children, correct?
Correct.
Tyson, Jacob, and Carter?
Yes, sir.
Which one of those kids currently live with you?
None.
And you blame others for that fact, correct?
Correct.
Ask the witness, Judge.
Ms. Zavala?
Ms. Schechter, did you get a virtual visit with Carter the other day?
Yes, ma'am.
In that visit, were you telling him about where he might get to live if he got to go with you in California?
I was telling him where I was going to be staying, not where he would.
Okay. So was there at any point that you were going to show Carter kind of where his bedroom was or anything about the house on the video?
He asked to see his bedroom and his toys, and I showed him where his stuff was.
During that visit, at any point did you tell him that you couldn't show him that because it was locked and they weren't home?
The garage was locked because there are tools and a Jeep inside. He wanted to see the Jeep, but the garage is locked due to we don't trust people not to go in there and steal all the tools. Yes, I did.
Okay.
And the garage is not attached to the house.
Okay, but that wasn't in regard to where he may personally sleep.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, back when he was with you in California, you started off with an aunt and uncle?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
And when did you move into boyfriend's house?
February of this year.
And or is that boyfriend's parents' home?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. We have already covered this territory. And I know Stacy wasn't at the original hearing. This was already been testified to. So I'm going to object as asked and answered.
So I did hear that testimony. My question was going to be slightly different.
Okay, I mean, I will sustain Mr. Barfield's objection in that we've covered a lot of this. So I know you were watching YouTube, but so if there's something different that you want to get into with her, then that's fine. I'll give you some leeway, Ms. Zavala, but we've covered a whole lot of it.
my question is simply, why was the move from aunt and uncle's to boyfriend's parents' house?
My aunt and my uncle moved, and I didn't want to be in the area that they were moving to. I didn't feel that it was the best place for my son.
When you filed with the 320th, your motion to modify, you attached a whole lot of documents to it, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't want to go through all the documents, but did you personally provide something from the Riverside County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, ma'am.
In that report that you yourself provided, did it talk about Jacob trying to enforce the order back on November 13th to take
hearsay, Your Honor. For the purposes of this hearing, it's hearsay.
And Your Honor, I would absolutely agree with that. But at this point, she's testified totally against something that she herself had filed with the court. So it's kind of it's impeachment issue.
I'm going to give her a little leeway. Go ahead.
Can you ask the question one more time, please?
On what's labeled as page 4 of the Riverside County Sheriff Department, excuse me, page 3, did you file something that showed that Jacob tried to leave with Carter back in November 13th?
Trying to get to these documents. Just one moment. There's 116 pages that I have to go through. That way I can answer your question correctly. A moment.
Do you know which document she's referring to?
Are you referring to the 11/13/2023 document with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department?
Up at the top, it says file number F233170012. I printed it and do not have it up. Hold on just a second and I can try to figure that out.
We'll take a break here in about 10 minutes to give Miss Goodman a break. She's the only one I really, really care about.
And Judge,
well, she's the only one I really, really care that gets mad at me.
And Your Honor, it may take me a little bit of time to get that in a position, so okay. I don't know if I can break now to do that. Or...
All right, I think it would be much easier. She's got lots of documents there. If you can just scan it or get to it, and we can do share screen. So let's go ahead and take about a 10-minute break. So we'll be back right at 3 o'clock. All right, Ms. Zavala.
Okay, Your Honor, I do believe that I have the document up. Let me see. Would you like me to share my screen?
Counsel, any objection?
No objection.
Okay, and I've never done this before, so let me see if I can.
And may it please the court, is Brooks with us?
Oh.
I just want to double check because it is his.
Yeah. Yeah. Make sure he's back.
Kind of looks like he's on a roller coaster.
It's really windy out there in California. Looks to me like he's in a vehicle. Okay. 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 Ms. Barfield, are you ready to go?
Okay. I got my audio back.
Okay. All right. Any objection to Ms. Zavala doing a shared screen on the document she's questioning about?
I will renew my objection to hearsay, Your Honor.
And Your Honor, if you'd like, I could ask some questions to Ms. Schechter without the document and see if I can resolve that.
Fine. All right, that'd be fine.
Okay. Ms. Schechter, on November 13th of 2023, did Jacob attempt to leave your home with Carter?
Yes, ma'am.
And on that date, both of you were interviewed by the Riverside County Sheriff. Is that correct?
Correct.
And in that report that you filed, does it document that Jacob went to the courthouse on 2 different days in November to try to get Carter released to him?
Not that I'm aware of. Excuse me.
And Your Honor, I know it's a fine line, but because it is a document that she herself has provided, and that it appears she should have knowledge of the contents, I would like to question her on the last page of that document.
And again, Judge, she has not provided that document as in this case as an exhibit. We don't know statements. We don't know what officer prepared the statements. We don't know if the statements are accurate insofar as the exhibit goes. It's hearsay, and there's no exception.
All right, I'll sustain the objection unless it was an affidavit that she wrote out, for the officers or something like that. But short of that, then I think it's hearsay.
Okay. So Ms. Schechter, would you agree that from November 13th of 2023 all the way until April, when the court ordered that Carter be returned to Dad, that Dad's position was that Carter should go with him?
I believe on my end you broke up during half of the question. Would you mind repeating yourself? I'm so sorry.
Sure. Okay, from November 13th of 2023 up until the court in California made the order to release Carter, that Dad that entire time was saying Carter should come with him.
I mean, I hadn't spoke with his fathers from the day that restraining order was made until the day that Carter was picked up, so I can't answer that question.
So is it correct that you had multiple hearings in the spring that got continued because you need more time?
They were continued due to, I didn't ask for continuances. Him and his lawyer asked for continuances.
Okay, so but he was fighting in court in California the whole time, correct?
He did not attend any of the court dates other than the last one, so I would say no, he did not. Himself, he did not.
Okay, I guess what I'm trying to get to, Dad did not voluntarily leave Carter with you for this period of time.
No, ma'am.
Okay. And ultimately, when the hearing took place in April, you had to release Carter back to his dad.
Due to lack of jurisdiction, correct.
I'll pass the witness.
Hey, Mr. Trout.
I have one quick question, Your Honor. Well, it may end up being a couple of questions, but Ms. Schechter, in the affidavit that was filed by the department, it discusses the CPS report made in California in November of 23. In that statement, it states that your uncle you lived with in California, is he on a registered sex offender list?
No, sir.
Okay, so that was not correct information that was given?
No, he is not on the registry list.
Okay. Oh, in Texas, is he anywhere?
No, he's not.
Okay, all right. Thank you, ma'am. I'll pass witness, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Barfield.
I don't have any further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Noet?
No further questions, Judge. Thank you.
Ms. Zavala?
Nothing further.
Okay. All right, then. Mr. Trout, who's your next witness?
I call Brittany Perez, Your Honor. And during the course of cases with the department, does the department keep records in a regular course of business?
Yes, sir.
And are those entries made at around the time the events occurred?
Yes, sir.
Are the entries made by a person with personal knowledge?
Yes, sir.
Do you have access to those records?
I do.
Are you a custodian of records?
I am.
Are you familiar with the case we're discussing involving the child, Carter?
Yes, sir.
Have you had an opportunity to review the records regarding this case?
I have.
Are the removal affidavit and the investigative report made a part of these records?
Yes.
And are they filed with the court?
Yes, sir.
And have you reviewed those documents?
I have.
And Mr. President, you're not the, you aren't the assigned investigator on this case, is that correct?
I'm not assigned. That is correct.
Okay. But you worked on this case?
I did. I was assigned as a courtesy worker.
Okay. So you worked on this case along with Mr. Valdez?
Yes.
And he's unavailable to testify today, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
But you were here throughout the steps of this investigation?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, you, are you aware that prior to this beginning, I'm assuming it's still the same, that Mr. Craddock originally agreed to work services and for TMC to stay with the department, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And we've been taking testimony as far as mom, Ms. Schechter. Were you ever able to have conversations with Ms. Schechter?
Not Ms. Schechter.
Okay. But you were involved with conversations with Dad?
Yes, sir.
And is it your understanding that Dad is in agreement and wants the child to stay with Miss Christine?
Yes, sir.
And he is willing to work services?
Yes, sir.
Is it the department's stance that mom was in during the time removal? Mr. Craddock was not able to take care of the child, so he allowed the child to stay with Miss Craddock, Christine Craddock?
Yes, sir.
And was mom contacted during the investigation?
Yes, sir.
And did mom ask to your knowledge, did mom ever ask to have the child returned to her at that time?
I'm unsure.
Okay. Do you know if mom ever asked, or mom stated she would come to Texas and pick up her child?
Yes, sir.
She did or did not?
From what I was reading and stuff, that she did say she would come to Texas to pick up her child.
Okay. At that time?
I'm unsure.
Do you believe, based upon the testimony you've heard and for the reasons for removal, that it'd be in the best interest of the child to remain in care at this time?
Yes, sir.
And for the parents to work services?
Yes, sir.
And do you believe that's in the best interest of the child?
Yes, sir.
I'll pass witness, Young.
All right, Mr. Barfield?
Yes, ma'am. Are you aware that Ms. Schechter has just tested negative for all drugs through a hair follicle test?
Yes, sir. I've been made aware.
Okay. Or have you heard the testimony that she has stable housing?
Yes, I've heard her statements.
Okay. And have you heard her statements that she was complying with court orders in allowing Mr. Craddock to leave with her child?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have any evidence whatsoever that Ms. Schechter did anything to physically harm Carter?
Based off just previous CPS history of being validated on as RTB, as well as being present whenever the child, Carter, has been seen, that he had stated that he calls—
Objection hearsay. Objection hearsay.
Sustained as to what Carter said.
So let me re-ask my question. Do you have any evidence through medical reports, through medical records, through observations of Carter, that while Carter was in Ms. Schechter's care for the 6 months in California, she did anything to physically harm this child?
No, sir.
Do you have any evidence at all that she did anything to sexually assault this child?
No, sir.
Did this child, while in the possession of Ms. Schechter, test positive for any type of drugs?
I'm sorry, you broke out. What was that?
Okay, did this child, while in the care of Ms. Schechter, ever test positive for any illegal substances?
No, sir.
Do you have any evidence that Carter was not well taken care of for the 6 months or from the time she had Carter in California?
No, sir.
Okay. And yet you state it's not in the best interest for the biological mother to have possession of her child. Is that what you testified to?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
now,
sir.
Have you ever had a conversation with Ms. Schechter?
No, sir.
And that's because you're not actually the investigator on this case, are you?
No, sir.
Okay. You're just kind of filling in and being put in this spot, haven't you?
Well, I worked alongside. I was assigned secondary, so.
Okay. All right. So, and so you're familiar with the report, and do you know of the domestic issues between Mr. Craddock and current placement?
Do what, sir?
Do you know of the domestic violence issues between placement and Mr. Craddock?
No, sir.
No, sir? Was that you cut out? I'm sorry.
No, sir.
Okay. What investigation has the department done into those allegations?
Your Honor, I would object. I'm unsure what allegations he's referring to. I don't believe there are allegations of domestic violence with placement, at least not in testimony.
Mr. Barfield, did you mean domestic violence between Mr. Craddock and current placement of the child, or did you mean domestic violence between he and the mother?
I misspoke. Thank you, Judge, for clarifying that. I misspoke. Okay. I apologize, Stacey.
That's where you had us all confused. Let's back up.
That is okay. Brittany, I'm sorry. Yes, I completely misspoke. Getting long in the day. So, but yes, were you aware of any domestic violence issues?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm sorry I confused everyone. I apologize. Now, do you have any reason to believe that Carter would not be safe with Ms. Schechter in California? Personal knowledge?
No, sir.
I'll pass the witness.
All right. Mr. Noah?
Briefly, Judge. Brittany, I think you testified that Jacob agreed to work services.
Yes,
correct?
Sir.
And that still remains true,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
That's all I got, Judge. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Ms. Ball.
At the time that the affidavit was filed, is it correct that Mom was not available to come pick him up in Texas then?
I believe so, ma'am.
Do you know, did she say that she would be available sometime in the future, but not right now? Or are you just unsure as to what the discussion was regarding coming to pick him up?
That is correct. I'm unaware of the discussion.
But at the time that this action was filed, there was no way to hand Carter off to Mom.
Correct.
I pass witness.
All right, Mr. Trout, anything further of this witness?
None further of this witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Ms. Perez, or are we free to release her at this time?
I have no questions.
No further questions.
No further.
Nothing else, Judge.
Okay. Ms. Perez, you're free to go at this time. You're certainly welcome to stay, but you are free to go on about your day's activities.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Trout, who do we have next?
I'd call Jacob Craddock, Your Honor.
Okay, we've got a real lag. Mr. Craddock, I'm going to have you turn your video off.
And you have been here throughout testimony, is that correct?
Yes, sir, I have.
And when we started this hearing last week, your attorney announced that you were in agreement with temporary managing conservatorship to the department. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
and your willingness to work services. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. Do you have personal knowledge, not things that have been told to you, not things you've heard, personal knowledge of reasons why Carter should not be returned to the mother at this time?
Yes, sir.
And what are those reasons?
Inability to transport him. She does not have a license. She does not have a legal way to drive him around. She refuses to work. She's had more than one opportunity to take a job and has refused. And I have personal knowledge that her uncle was a registered sex offender. I guess that he had not reoffended in California in so long that they took him off that registry, but he is on the national database.
Okay. Now, as far as that, she is not living with the uncle anymore at this time. Is that correct?
As far as I know, but if she were to have a falling out with the boyfriend, that is the only other.
Your Honor, object non-responsive. Your Honor, object non-responsive, and I'd like him on screen too.
Well, Mr. Barfield, I'd love to have him on screen, but his internet.
Is there a glitch? Okay, if there's a technical glitch, okay.
His internet connection was such that it was freezing. So
okay, no worries, no worries. Sorry, but I am going to object to his non-responsive to his response.
I'll sustain.
Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Craddock, listen carefully to the question and just answer what's been asked.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Craddock, was Carter living with mom in uncle's home?
Say that one more time, sir.
Was Carter living with Ms. Schechter at the uncle's home?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Okay. And you said you have personal knowledge that he was on a sex offender list?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you try to bring Carter back to Texas?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when was that?
That was November 13th. I was attempting to get in the Uber to get to the bus station because I already had bus tickets purchased to come back to Texas.
Okay. And why did that not happen?
Because Ms. Schechter and her aunt came out to the Uber driver's car and would not let him leave with us. And in that period of time, Ms. Schechter opened up the Uber door and took Carter from his car seat and ran inside and locked the door.
Okay. Were you attempting to abide by the court order that you have custody of him during that time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when were you allowed to regain custody of your child?
In April.
Good. When you tried to leave with your child in November, were you planning on being homeless in California with Carter?
No, sir.
Just to kind of clear the air on this, as to you are not in a position right now to take care of Carter, is that correct?
No, sir. I am only working part-time. I'm not financially stable enough to take care of him. I also am working services with CPS, or I'm starting that process, and am trying to get myself to a spot where I am financially able to take care of him, and also to work on my mental health. The toll of having a dying child and the back and forth between me and Ms. Schechter with Carter has dealt me a great deal of PTSD, along with the hospital stay that I spent with Jacob.
And do you believe that at this time it is in Carter's best interest to stay in the care of the department while you and mother work services in order to try to straighten some of this out?
Yes, sir.
And is that what you would ask the court to do today?
Yes, sir. I've asked for him to remain where he's placed under the supervision of the department.
Thanks, sir. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Barfield.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Craddock, currently, in regards to Ms. Schechter, when did you go out to California?
It was in the beginning of November. I was essentially begged by her and her aunt to come out there. Me and Christina were going through a divorce, and I was not living in the home, but Carter was still living in the home. And I was convinced by her and her relatives that California would be a good place for us to start.
So you voluntarily went to California with Carter?
Yes, sir. Her aunt bought my tickets.
Okay, you answered my question. I'm not asking for an explanation. So just listen to my question, and I'll ask you more if I want to, okay? Okay, so when you got out to California, where did you and Carter live?
With her aunt and uncle.
Okay, and where was that?
In Lake Elsinore, California.
Okay, and how long did you live there in Lake Elsinore, California?
2 weeks.
Okay, 2 weeks. Okay, and then did you leave that residence?
Yes, sir.
Did Carter stay in the
Lake Elsinore?
Okay,
hang on, y'all are talking over.
I'm trying to ask yes or no questions, Judge.
All right, Mr. Craddock, hang on. All right, let's just back up for a minute because everybody was talking.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Ms. Barfield, ask your question again.
Thank you. So when you left the residence in Elsinore, California, did Carter go with you?
No, sir.
Did he remain in the residence with Miss Schechter?
Yes, sir.
Where did you go?
For the first week, I stayed in Riverside, California, attempting to have the courts recognize my paperwork. And then after that, I came back to Texas.
Okay. So when did you come back to Texas?
Exactly 1 week after the 13th, when I was asked to leave the residence.
Yeah. At some point, were you the subject of a restraining order out in California?
A temporarily granted one, yes.
And did that restraining order prevent you from contacting both Carter and Miss Schechter?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, at some point, did you ever go back out to California?
Not until I went and retrieved my son in April.
Okay. So my answer to my question is yes, you went to California in April. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And how did you get to California?
I rode a Greyhound bus.
Okay. And so at the time you went to California, did you have a residence here in Texas?
Yes, sir.
Where were you living?
I was living with my ex-girlfriend in her apartment.
Okay. I noticed in the investigative report, and was that you weren't residing in the Travelers Motel?
Not at that time, no, sir.
When did you move into the Travelers Motel?
After I had split with my ex-girlfriend and Carter had already been put with Christina, I put him there myself.
Okay. All right. So that's after the department got involved?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, currently, where is Carter placed?
He's with my ex-wife, Christina Craddock.
Okay. And y'all are divorced, obviously.
Hang on. We lost someone. I think it's him. No, we got Mr. Craddock. Hang on, we got Mr. Craddock. I'm looking to see.
He's currently placed with my ex-wife, Christina Craddock.
All right, everybody wait for a minute. Hang on, everybody. I think we lost Mom. No, there she is. Okay, I'm trying to see who just fell out. Maybe it was someone else that was logged in for the department. Okay, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Now, when were y'all divorced?
I don't know the exact date, but it was approximately 6 months ago.
Okay. Did y'all have any children together?
No, sir.
Okay. And what was the reason y'all got divorced?
My infidelity and unable to reconcile.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Did you ever have any physical altercations with Christina?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, in regards to Carter, when he was out in California, and before, where did you go to pick him up?
At the Lake Elsinore Police Department.
Okay. And was that by agreement with Miss Schechter to meet there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did she turn over Carter to you to bring back to Amarillo?
Yes, sir.
And since, have you been served with papers for a modification of your possession and access pursuant to the prior orders?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you know there's a hearing June 7th?
I was unaware until this happened.
Okay, you cut out Mr. Craddock. If you'll answer again, please.
Unaware.
Okay. Your audio is breaking up. Let's try one more time.
I was unaware until this proceeding about the modification.
Okay. All right. Now, you've agreed to work services, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And was Carter with you when he was removed?
Say that one more time, please, sir.
Was Carter with you when he was removed?
No, sir. He was with Christina.
So where were you? So where did he live?
He lived with Christina from the very moment that we arrived back in Texas. I put him directly into Miss Craddock's car, and they went to her house.
Why didn't you just leave? Why didn't you just leave Carter with his mom if you weren't going to take care of him?
Say that again, please, sir.
Sure. So you went out to California, you picked up Carter with no intent whatsoever to be a parent to him, correct?
No, sir.
Well, why did you drop off Carter with your ex-wife to live there then?
Because that is where he has spent the majority of his life. That is where he goes to school. That is where his home is. And I, at the time, was just splitting up from my girlfriend and was trying to get my affair in orders so I would have a home for him to come to.
Okay. Well, do you know that Carter was enrolled in school in California?
I don't believe that at all, sir. According to the teachers,
if you know, if you know, you know. If you don't, you don't.
No, sir. I know that he was not.
How do you know that?
Because I had exclusive rights to where he was enrolled in school, and Bushland ISD looked for where he was enrolled in the state of California, and there was no records of him being enrolled in the state of California.
Objection, hearsay, objection, non-responsive.
Well, okay.
I'll move on.
I'll sustain. The question, Mr. Craddock, was, did you know whether he was or was not enrolled in school? So, okay.
Yes, I knew that he was not.
Okay. Now, did you hear the testimony of Ms. Schechter about you denying visitation for her to Carter?
Yes, sir, I did.
And you did that, didn't you? You denied her access to Carter, didn't you? For a long time.
No, sir.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Novak.
Thank you so much, Judge. And just briefly, hey, Jacob, this is Vince. Daniel and Brooks asked most of the questions I wanted to ask. However, I do have a couple of discrete questions for you. Has Misty ever taken Carter to your parents in the middle of the night?
Yes, sir.
When did that happen?
That was in 2018, New Year's Eve, in fact.
Do your parents live in, or did they live in Odessa at that time?
No, sir.
Oh, you were in Odessa working, correct?
Yes, sir. I was running a dozer for waste management.
Did Misty tell you why she took Carter to your parents in the middle of the night on New Year's Eve?
No, sir. My father gave me a call in the middle of the night on New Year's Eve.
Okay. And don't tell me what he said, but apparently you found out that your son was with your parents at that point, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is Christina a safe place for Carter?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree with me that being a dad is making sure your child is in a safe place?
Yes, sir.
And have you done that?
Yes, sir.
That's the witness, Judge. Thank you, Jacob.
Ms. Zavala?
Mr. Craddock, I'm still just trying to get the timeline straight as to when Carter lived with you. So you got that call New Year's Eve 2018. Did he remain with your parents at that time?
For 2 weeks, yes, until I got off of the hitch that I was working on. I was working 2 weeks on, 1 week off.
And what happened after that 2 weeks?
I terminated my job. I quit my job and began full-time being a father and looking for work in Shamrock.
And so from that point, I guess now that's early 2019.
Yes, ma'am.
How long did he live with you at that point, starting in 2019?
Up until the 6 months before the October final hearing where I was given custody.
So what happened at that 6 months before period?
I was coerced by Miss Schechter to let her see Carter to visit him. And when I pulled up to my parents' residence, she once again nabbed him out of the car and ran inside, locked the door, and had somebody waiting out back to take her to where I didn't know where they were.
So between 2019 until that moment, had mom ever tried to be involved in Carter's life?
No, ma'am. The only contact that I had with Miss Schechter in that period of time was her asking me for money.
So were you denying her access to Carter at that time?
No, ma'am.
So when she took him, is that when the legal proceeding began? Did you begin that legal proceeding?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And in the temporary order, were you awarded primary?
Yes, ma'am.
There was some visitation that was ordered during that time period. Did you follow that order and allow mom to have that visitation?
Yes, ma'am.
And in that temporary order, were you and Christina responsible for driving Carter to mom?
During the temporary, yes.
And then in the final, did that transportation change? Was she ordered to come pick him up from you to start her visits?
Yes, ma'am. We had brought it to the court's attention that it was not only financially strapping, but it was also time strapping for us to have to make the 100-mile trip twice every weekend or every other weekend that she had visitation.
So mom has testified that as soon as that final order went in, that you stopped allowing her to have visits. Is that correct?
No, ma'am. She did not drive the 100 miles to Amarillo to have her visitation.
Did you ever tell her that she couldn't see him?
No, ma'am. The only time that I have ever, and I didn't deny, I just asked who she was living with, was in the period right after the final order when it was brought to my attention that she was living with a child molester.
So if she had followed the court order and driven to Amarillo for her visits, those visits would have been allowed?
Yes, ma'am.
And did she attempt to exercise those visits once the transportation responsibility fell on her?
No, ma'am.
How long has Carter lived in the same home as Christina?
For the majority of, from I would say the middle of 2019 into 2019 until now.
at any point prior to those orders, did mom ever reach out to visit Carter?
No, ma'am. She was bouncing from state to state with her new husband, and they were.
Your Honor, object, non-responsive. That requires a yes or no answer.
No, she didn't.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Carter, call Christina.
Carter calls Christina mama.
If Carter were to remain in Christina's home, do you understand that you cannot go over there?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Can you follow any instructions that this judge gives you about contact with Carter?
Yes, ma'am, I will.
I pass the witness.
Okay, Mr. Trout, back to you.
I don't believe I have any further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Anybody else have any further questions for Mr. Craddock?
No, Your Honor.
No, Judge.
No, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Trout, any further witnesses?
No further witnesses, Your Honor.
Department rests?
Department rests.
Okay, then, Mr. Barfield.
I'm thinking about calling my client for rebuttal, but I think she's already testified about what happened out in California with him. So I don't have any further witnesses, Judge.
All right, do you rest?
I will rest.
Okay, Mr. Nowak.
Rest, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Zavala, any witnesses to present?
I have no witnesses, Your Honor. I would rest.
All right, then, Ms. Zavala, do you have a recommendation to make?
Yes, Your Honor. It is my recommendation that Carter remain in the temporary managing conservatorship of the department, working towards reunification with either of the parents, but working services towards that. I do recommend that he remain in the placement that he is currently, and specifically as to Carter's wishes, he has expressed to me that that's where he would like to remain. I have concerns about the stability of housing that is not mother's. I have concerns about the history and how long Carter's actually been with her. I've got a child telling me he does not want to go back, and a mom who doesn't have custody of any of her 3 biological children and does not have much history with him. I am concerned. This is not her home. I think there would need to be an ICPC done on the home itself. But that is not to say that we can't move forward in this case to reunification with mom or with dad, whichever one becomes appropriate at that time.
All right, thank you, Ms. Vaughn. All right, everybody else close?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Close.
All right, y'all give me just a minute. Give me just a couple minutes. At this time, then, I do find the evidence is sufficient to name the Department of Family and Protective Services as the temporary managing conservator of the child. I would find that there is a continuing and ongoing danger to return the child home to either parent at this time, in part because of lack of really information about mom's living situation, some concerns there, and for obvious reasons of removal with the father. Therefore, I want to order an ICPC home study on Ms. Schechter. Ms. Schechter, your attorney can give you more information about what that is. It's unfortunate, but they do take a while. But if I'm going to order that to be on you and your current household in California, if that's where you intend to remain. So what you don't want to do is once that ICPC home study gets going is then up and decide, oh, it's time maybe to move, because that's going to slow the whole process down. So if you're going to stay in that household, that's your decision. But my point is, it's really, problematic if you decide 3 months from now that you're going to move out. I mean, I know sometimes those things can't be helped, but if you're going to try to move out on your own, then better to do it before that home study gets initiated, is all I'm really telling you, because it can really slow things down. But you can talk to your lawyer more about that. Okay, I do expect that parents will work services, and specifically, I want them to participate in extensive co-parenting. For a lot of what I've heard in these 2 days of this case, is kind of classic young parents fighting over a kid stuff. And, you guys have got plenty of time to turn this around as far as how to healthily co-parent Carter. And figure out how you're going to do this if you're going to remain at this tremendous geographic distance. So, it's possible to do it in a healthy and productive manner, but it takes a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of hard work on your all's part to make sure that Carter has got a good, healthy relationship with the both of you. So the sooner you all make up your minds that you're going to grow up and be adults and be the responsible parties in his life, the better off everybody's going to be. I'm going to order the department to use reasonable efforts to reunify the family. Visitations will be supervised, of course, and can be scheduled with mom virtually and in person if she comes to Texas to see the child. Same with the father, with Mr. Craddock, and those could be in person if we get negative UAs and a negative hair follicle.
Breaking up, I didn't.
If Mr. Craddock gives us some negative UAs and a negative hair follicle, just like you have, Ms. Schechter, then he could have in-person visits with a child. They're going to be supervised. But I want to make sure that he's clean before we start those in-person visits. Child's going to remain in his current placement. Ms. Zavala, as you all know, filed a motion for me to confer with the child, which I did yesterday, even though he's quite young. I would say that I did learn some things in my meeting with the child. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you what those are, other than it is also fairly apparent to me that the child has been coached, because the child used words and phrases and talked about things in such a fashion that a 6-year-old walking in cold on the situation would never use. So, but he did appear to be very comfortable with placement, who brought him to the courthouse for us to visit. I didn't observe them for very long, but it was quite obvious that he was very comfortable and very at ease with her and with the other child that was present with them. I do want placement to be admonished that Mr. Craddock is not allowed access to the child at placement, in person, by telephone, any other means, other than the specified visitation that he has through the department in St. Francis Ministries. Mr. Craddock, I will admonish you that don't breach those rules, because if you do and she caves in and allows you unauthorized access, it will likely result in the child having to be moved out of that placement. And, the last thing we want to do is bounce kids around. Number one, he's already been bounced around enough by the two of you. So, Ms. Schechter, it does appear you're setting your roots down in California. Mr. Craddock, it appears you're setting yours here, but you guys just need to get those set and, be able to stand on your own 2 feet so that you can focus on taking care of Carter. I'm going to admonish everybody. Of course, your visits are going to be supervised, so it probably isn't going to happen. But, I don't want anybody talking to Carter about the other parent, or making any kind of references that somehow the other parent, isn't a good parent or is mean or is, just anything ugly. Y'all need to start being supportive of one another with him. Again, it's obvious from the way he phrased some things that that's exactly what's been going on. So I can't stress enough with St. Francis the component of co-parenting in this case. All right. I will see everybody back for our status hearing on July 9th of 2024. That'll be on a 9:00 docket. I don't know what Judge Denny is going to do with this modification that has been filed. Ms. Schechter, I haven't looked, but you do have to personally have people served with an action before you can proceed. You may want to visit just briefly with Mr. Barfield about that, and because Mr. Craddock didn't seem to have a whole lot of information about this, and it just made me wonder if he's even been served with that action. So before you make a trip to Texas for that court date, I think you need to be you need to be sure that you're ready to have a court date, and that those I's have been dotted and those T's have been crossed and all that. And beyond that, I don't know what Judge Denny's going to do from here. But
Judge.
Anyway, just as a kind of a heads up and beware, there are certain things that have to be done before you can move forward in a court case.
I've attempted when I was down there for last Thursday and Friday.
I don't need to know about that. That's kind of a different deal. But if you've got questions about it, probably Mr. Barfield can answer them. But I just some things I heard today made me think maybe you're not really ready to move forward with that, or you can't, or that the judge won't, can't. So I have not looked at it. So I don't know that, but it just made some things that were said today made me think that.
Judge, we can look that if she wants to get with Sandy in my office tomorrow, we can look on Odyssey and see if citation has been properly served. I don't want her wasting her trip, and I'm sure the court, Judge Denny's court, doesn't want either.
Well, I mean, it's a long way to travel for a court proceeding that can't happen. If you want to come and have a visit with your son, great. So, but I'm just, that just kind of rang a little bell in my head that there might be a problem there.
And Judge, real quick, it's just to make sure I don't put something in order. Normally on these cases, we would ask for child support and medical support if they've been ordered in prior cases, but we're cutting that out, correct?
I'm going to suspend the payment of child support and medical support because I want parents to work services.
Yes,
this is going to be hard enough for Ms. Schechter since she's all the way in California. We all know that can be very difficult because in-state services, Ms. Schechter, we can't pay for certain services that haven't happened, outside of the state of Texas. St. Francis has some resources and they'll work with you about that. But I'm just telling you, heads up, it's more difficult. So we'll do everything that we can, but there are certain, professionals that aren't licensed to practice outside of the state of Texas, and they're going to say, I can't do this. I can't do virtual counseling with someone who is not within the state of Texas. So, there are some hiccups and some bumps in the road, but St. Francis, I know, does have some resources to try to help you with service providers, but they're going to be talking to you about that between now and the next hearing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Prior support orders are just suspended at this time.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to make sure on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you asking.
Yes, ma'am.
And let me just make a note of that in my docket so I don't forget.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, ma'am.
This is mainly to my lawyer. Do we have?
You may want to ask. I can put you in a breakout room if you want to talk to your lawyer confidentially.
Yes.
Yeah, if we can do that, if we're done, Judge, if you could just put us in a breakout room, and we'll just leave the whole deal when we're done.
Okay, so I will do that. And I'll see, like I said, I'll see y'all back on July 9th. And, you don't have to wait until then to get started on your services. Get going on them as soon as you can. And, this can, all I can stress to y'all is this can have a very good ending for everybody, in particular for Carter. But you guys are going to have to work together. Okay. Yes, all right. Thank you all very much. And Jody, particularly, thanks to you for stepping up today. I'm sorry it's been such a long day.
No problem.
Okay. All right. Let me get you all in your breakout room.
Thank you, Judge. And Jacob, I will call you, and Judge, with your permission, I will leave the courtroom.
Yes, sir. Everybody else is free to go. All right, Ms. Schechter, you and Mr. Barfield are going to get an invitation to go to room 1. You can say join. And then I'll just watch, and when you all are gone, then I'll shut the feed down.